remember me. It's been a while since I've done a YouTube video, and YouTube reminded me that, hey, you haven't done a video in like 90 days. So here I am. I'm going to film a YouTube video, and I got to tell you, lots has happened since I last did a video for all of you. Um, so many things. I had a milestone birthday, which was wonderful, and my family threw me a surprise party. It was wonderful. I got a new machine, this beautiful new industrial machine. I got a new best friend. Meet Sadie. I'll put a picture of her right here. And she's my constant companion, and I love her so much. Anyways, welcome to the Made Up Here YouTube channel. If you're new, my name is Sarah. Really happy to have you here. I do videos about sewing techniques. I do tutorials. I talk a little bit about using your Cricut for sewing. And I'm hoping over the next couple of months this year, to even delve into some other things, because I've really become passionate about homesteading type things like cooking, gardening, freezer meals from scratch, things like that. So I don't know if this is going to be the right platform for me to do that. I know most of you are here for the sewing content, but let me know in the comments if you think that maybe throwing some different things in there might be a fun idea. I'm just playing around with the idea of maybe starting a second YouTube channel. But to be honest, this YouTube channel I've been neglecting. So maybe I just need a different spark, something to get me going again, and keep things interesting for everybody. Anyways, welcome. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, it would be super awesome if you did. We recently went over 1,000 subscribers, so that was awesome. Currently probably sitting, I think, about 1,200. I would love to grow my channel a little bit more, and really appreciate all the time you spend here watching my videos, commenting. I read every single comment. If I can get to them, I do. It's been pretty busy around here, so sometimes I miss responding to comments, but thank you everyone for engaging with my posts, because that really, really helps. Throwing a like or a subscribe really helps my channel. And I hope to be doing this for a long time. Anyways, let's get to the project that I'm going to be sewing. So I have a market coming up tomorrow. And while I have quite a bit of stock already, I thought I'd put together some back to school type items. And what we're going to be making are these cute little pencil cases. It's a triangular pencil case. Now, this is a free pattern offered on the Sewing Times YouTube channel and blog. And they're really, really quick to sew up. They're very, very easy, very few pieces. So inside, and I think they're a nice take on a pencil case, something a little bit different, kind of a little classy. And this one is a Halloween theme. Halloween's coming, so I thought maybe that might be fun. And we're gonna sew up one of these in this tutorial today. So let's get sewing. Okay, so the supplies for this project are very minimal. They're really quick to cut out. I encourage you to go to the Sewing Times blog post to see the measurements. She also has a video available that there's no narration or explanation to how to put this together, but it's a very, very good video to show how easy and quick it is to put this together. So first things first, you do need an 8-inch zipper. I'm using continuous zipper by the yard, and I did cut it about 8.5 inches just to be sure that, because you know, sometimes the ends here, they aren't cut straight, just so I have a little wiggle room to be able to chop some off if I need to. So number 5 zipper, 8 inches. There's 2 little pull tabs. These are 2 inches by 1.25 inch. I have 2 outer squares 4 by 4 and 2 lining squares 4 by 4. I have an outer piece that is 8 and 3/4 by, oh my goodness. Let's see, pull my measurements out. 8 and 3/4 by 6 1/4. So I have a lining and a main outer. And then I have two lining pieces, or sorry, two other, an outer piece that is 8 and 3/4 by 5 3/8, and it's matching lining piece. That is it. Now in her tutorial on her channel, she does include a little wrist strap or a handle for the bag. I'm not going to be including that in mine today because I just don't feel like a pencil case really needs a strap added to it. And just to keep it quick and simple, I won't be adding that. But we're going to get going and we're going to make this cute little pencil case. Okay, so first things first, there's a couple of things I didn't mention when I was explaining the pieces. There's a couple of markings you need to make on these pieces. Now, because I'm using vinyl for my smaller piece, the one that is 8 and 3/4 by 5 3/8, I did not use any fusible fleece on that. I'm also not interfacing my lining pieces because they are like a stiff outdoor canvas fabric. But on the smaller piece, which is going to be this top piece, you need to measure from the top of your piece 1 3/8 inch down. So just make a couple of little markings, and we're going to make some snips here later on. On your larger piece, so for me, my outer piece is going to be this chemistry fabric on the bottom. I did put some fusible fleece on that, and what I did was marked from the bottom up to the marking is 3.75 inches. So make sure you make those little marks on both sides because we will make some snips, and this is how we're going to make our triangle side pieces fit in correctly. On the 4x4 pieces, this is my outer, so I'm using that same chemistry fabric for the outer. I did put some fusible fleece, and these pieces are 3 1/4 inch by 3 1/4 inch. So just center those on your piece. And what I did was drew a line right up the center of that piece because we're going to make our triangle pieces with this. So I did that on both pieces. So those markings are super important to make sure that your triangles fit really nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare my side pieces now. And from that center line, I'm going to go from the corner of my fusible fleece to the center top point. And let's make sure, because this is directional fabric, that I'm doing this in the correct way. So from the corner, let's move this out of the way. From the corner of my fusible fleece to that center point, I'm going to draw a line. And on the other side, same thing. So that's going to give me my perfect size triangle. And I'll do that for both pieces. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to really try hard to make sure I stay in shot for all of the instructions here. I know in the past I've had, in particular, one video where I went off camera a little bit and got some comments. So I do read the comments, I am aware, and I will do my best to stay in camera. So these pieces, we now have our triangle, and the seam allowance for the entire pattern is 3/8 of an inch. So I am going to cut 3/8 of an inch. I'm just going to make sure that I've got it correct here. I'll do my first line and then I can kind of eyeball it. So I'm going to cut this triangle with the seam allowance 3/8 of an inch. And we'll do the same on the other side. So what you should have now is a triangle that looks kind of like this. This one is not cut very straight, so let's fix that. So much for eyeballing, huh? Okay. My goodness. Okay. I'll do the same thing over here. And you know what? Because I did such a terrible job on that other side, I am just going to measure my seam allowance here, 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so let's cut those. All right. And then what you can do is just place that on top of your lining piece, and you can cut your lining as well, just following your main outer piece. Okay, so now, shedding a little bit here. So now I have my triangle pieces are all prepared and ready to go for me for that step. I'm going to set that aside. And the first thing I'm going to do is we are going to install our zipper. So this is pretty simple. Now, the only thing of note here is if you care about the direction of your zipper, we're going to be installing it counterintuitive to what you would think because of the way that the pencil case, this main top fabric folds over. So where you placed your marks at 1 3/8 inch, that is the top. So we are going to install our zipper on the top of this piece. So if you flip this over with your top facing, we are going to have the zipper pull. We're going to have the zipper pull closing to the right instead of to the left. And I know for most bags, what we normally do is have the zipper closing to the right. In this case, we are going to have it closing to the left. And my little girl Sadie, puppy, I'm sorry if you heard her barking. My son just came in the house and she's very excited. Okay, so I'm going to clip this in place, lining up the edges of the zipper tape. And if you want to, you could baste this in place. I don't feel the need to baste first. So I'm going to take my lining fabric and I'm going to place it right side down on top of that and add this to my clipped edge. And then we are going to sew this zipper using the pattern says 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to get as close as I can with my zipper foot. Okay. So I'm still learning this machine. It's still fairly new to me. I purchased this machine just before my birthday. Well, no, actually just after my birthday. So in June of this year, and I've been learning lots about using an industrial machine. But I have to say I am loving it, and I don't think that I would ever go back. All right. So here we go. And I'm using a stitch length of 3. And for top stitching, I will likely use a 4 stitch length. Okay. And for those interested, this is a Hikari industrial. It is not walking foot, but I got a really great deal on this machine, so I'm not mad about it. And this machine will sew through all kinds of thicknesses. It's really nice. I've tried leather, super thick vinyl, multiple layers of thick fabric, all the way down to cotton, and it is a rock star for all of it. So really, really happy with this purchase. Okay, so I have that done, and what I'm going to do is fold these pieces together, and we are going to top stitch. Just give it a little tug. And looks like I didn't do the greatest job lining these up. That's okay, we can trim them later. This vinyl that I'm using is a tiny bit stretchy, so it's sometimes pulls on me, but okay. So I'm going to top stitch using a 4 stitch length. Okay, so now we are going to add our other main piece with the lining to the zipper. So again, if you have directional fabric, super important that you make sure that it's facing up the correct direction. So I'm going to place my main fabric right side down on the other edge of the zipper. Throw a couple of clips in there. And get rid of some of these threads. And my lining piece on the other side, also right side down. And we are going to sew this also with as close as we can get to a 3/8 inch seam. So if you guys have any suggestions of what I should name my new machine, I'd love to hear them. If you want to throw that in the comments, because I think this machine needs a name. All right. Move my zipper pull. Okay, so just like the other side, we're going to fold back the lining and the main outer piece. Give it a nice finger press. Make sure they line up, front and back. And we are going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch. Okay.
Okay, so you can kind of get an idea now of how this is going to work. So these are going to attach, and we're going to fit those side triangle pieces in here. So before I do any of that, I need my little tabs. This is just going to make life easier to be able to open and close our zipper pouch. So to do these, let me get this out of the way here. To do these, it's just a simple fold in about a quarter of an inch with this, have the edges meet in the center, and that's it. We don't even top stitch this. We just fold them down and then fold this in half, and this will get clipped right in the center of the zipper. There's one. I'm going to fold these, give them a little finger press. If you wanted to use double-sided tape here, you could. My machine does not really like double-sided tape very much, and so I am just going to try and make do without it. Okay, so I have my other little tab, and that one is going to get placed on the other side, centered up on that zipper tape at the end, and I'm going to clip that in place. So we are going to sew these down. Oh, of course I break a clip. Every project I break a clip. Okay, let's try that again. The struggle. There we go. Okay, so we have those edges clipped in, and what this is going to do is close up the ends of your zipper tape and secure your tabs down all at the same time. So I'm going to sew about a quarter of an inch in to secure these down. And if you just top stitch, don't forget to put your stitch length down. Make a little adjustment here to make sure that they look straight. I backstitch a couple of times over this to make sure it's really nice and secure, so my zipper doesn't come apart at the end. Okay, so we've got one. There's one. Flip it over and do the other side. Just make sure your zipper pull is not in the way. You do not want to sew over that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just trim off this little bit of zipper end and any loose threads. And I'm actually going to burn the end of this zipper tape again just to be sure that nothing comes unraveled. And that is if I can find a lighter. Oh, there we go. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, we're almost done. So that is your outer. Now what we are going to do is we are going to make our snips, and we are going to install our triangle side pieces. Now, our snips are on our main pieces. So you're going to have to take a peek underneath because our lining is now covering our marks. But I'm just lining up my lining along with my main outer, and I'm snipping in about 3/8 of an inch. And I've noticed that my lining is peeking out a little bit here, and I am just going to trim that up a little bit because I don't want that hanging off the edge. Just to make sure our little triangles fit correctly. Everything else looks okay. Oh, let's trim here. That looks fine. Okay, so I have my little snips here, and this is that bottom piece where we measured up 3 3/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to snip our top piece. Okay, so now we need to put this right side up, and we're going to take our triangle and have it facing with the point up. So flip it over to the back side. And what I do is I take the top edge and I line that up with that top snip. And it should meet up exactly with the other snip that you made. So you're going to clip this down, making sure it's all lined up to the edge. And you're going to do the same thing on this side. And you're going to take this edge with your point pointing up, match up this edge with your snip. So right here, and it should meet with your other snip just about perfectly. And then we're going to flip it over and we are going to add our lining pieces in the same way. Okay, so what you should have are your main outer triangles on the outside. And it should look like this. And on the back, you should have your lining pieces also clipped. And we are going to sew 3/8 of an inch starting from the marked point at your top to the bottom of your until you get to 3/8 of an inch at the bottom of the triangle. So as you can see, I'm not starting right at the very top of the triangle. I'm starting at the top of where I marked the point of my triangle on the interfacing, on the fusible fleece. Make sure you backstitch. And you're going to sew all the way down to the corner of that fusible fleece interfacing. Make sure you backstitch. And then repeat on the other side. So I'm starting at the bottom corner of my fusible fleece, right on that marked line. I'm just sewing right up that line to the point at the top of your interfacing. So what you should have are two little flaps on the front, and it also sewed your flaps on at the back at the same time. So our next step is we are going to sew our main outer pieces. So we're going to flip these out. And we're going to sew these two main outer pieces, the bottom edge together. Make sure they're lined up really nicely. Clip those in place. For some reason, my bottom edges don't want to meet up very nicely. There we go. So we clip those in place, and then your lining, same thing, except we are going to leave an opening about 2.5 to 3 inches on the bottom. So you're going to sew a couple of inches in on one side and a couple of inches in on the other side. So that'll leave a hole for us to be able to turn this out.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the
Lining side. And the lining, we're sewing this at 3/8 of an inch. Make sure you backstitch right where your opening is going to be. One side. I'm going to come down and sew a couple of inches on this side. And then I'm going to sew all the way across at 3/8 of an inch on the main outer piece. Almost lost my thread there. Snip all my threads. All right, so you should have a pouch that now you can kind of get an idea of the triangle shape on the side. What we are going to do now is we are going to pull out those edge pieces, And because we made those snips at a 3/8 inch, you should be able to line up the other two sides, clip those in place, and we are going to sew both the lining and the outer sides down at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. They should match up pretty well if you made your snips in the correct place and you followed your seam allowance. Okay, so there's one, that's the lining side. I'm going to pull out the main fabric and we're going to line that up, put that in place. And so you're going to repeat this on both sides. So you can see here, we've clipped both the lining and the outside piece. At this point too, I didn't check, but you want to make sure that your zipper is open so that you don't have trouble turning this out. So I'm going to clip the other side now. All right, last one. Pull out this lining. So I just kind of stick my fingers in the outside corners and give it a little tug to make sure it's laying flat. Match up that seam and then put a few clips. So we have both sides all clipped, and I'm going to sew along each of these edges at 3/8 of an inch. Now you might need to smush your pencil case down, that's okay. Just do what you need to do to flatten it out and get those seams laying nice and flat under the machine. So I kind of push it all down like this so that my seam is nice and flat. Then I do the same for each edge. Make sure you backstitch here as well. And it sounds like I might be running out of bobbin soon. Oh, I have run out of bobbin. Murphy's Law, almost done. Gonna run out of bobbin. So pardon me for 1 second while I wind another bobbin. Actually, I have a similar color here already, so I'm just gonna throw that one in. Since we're just sewing up on the inside, nobody's going to see this. My bobbin thread's going to be a teal blue. That's okay. All right, let's try that again. I should have known because you can kind of hear when your bobbin's getting close to being done, and thought I heard it, but kept on going. All right, so there's my first seam. So now I'm going to flip it over and sew down this one. All right, so before I continue on to the other sides, I want to just show you something. So here you can kind of see, because this lined up so nicely, you can see the stitching in a perfect triangle. That's what you're looking for. So I'm going to take this off camera. I'm going to finish the other 4 sides and I'll come back when it's time to turn this whole thing out. Okay, so here we go. We have all the sides sewn together, and now we are going to turn this whole thing out from this bottom opening. So hopefully your zipper was open. This shouldn't be too difficult to pull through. I'm going to turn this all out carefully, trying not to tear our seams. Oh, this outdoor fabric is quite stiff, so I spoke too soon. This one's a little tougher to turn out. Just going to take my time. Gently push, try and get those corners out. Okay. And get my hand in there inside the lining and make sure that my outer corners look nice. Quite happy with that. Okay, so now what we need to do is just pull our lining out gently. Get those corners pushed out as well to make our lives easier. And then we're going to fold in this raw edge, so give it a little tug, line it up, and clip that in place, and then we're going to sew that edge closed. Tuck it all back in, and then we're finished. I am going to clip this to be sure that I have it nice and straight. Make sure these corners are pushed out nice. Okay, last seam, and then we are going to tuck this all in and see what we have. So I'm going to sew at a very scant 1/8 of an inch here, as close as I can get to the edge while still catching this opening. Okay, so that's done, and now all we need to do is tuck that lining in and see what we've got. Make sure all your nice triangle corners are poked out and pointy. Give this a little shape, and there we have it. One adorable triangle pencil pouch, perfect for back to school, and I'm hoping I'm going to sell a whole bunch of these at my market tomorrow. One thing I did not do is put my tag on here. I suggest that before you start, after you've attached the zipper and top stitch, that you find a place for your bag tag if you wanted to add one in there. Um, Unfortunately, I completely forgot to do that, but there's lots of cool places where you can put it. You could put it on the back, you could put it up here, you could put it anywhere on this bag. You could even put it on one of the triangle sides if you wanted to. Anyways, that is our cute little pencil case, and I have about 4 or 5 more to sew up tonight. Didn't take very long. These are really quick to make and really impressive looking, something different than your regular pencil pouch. So I just want to say a really big thank you for being here with me through. If you made it through to the end of this video, kudos to you. Hopefully you were going to go out and make a whole bunch of these pencil cases. Like I said, give credit where credit is due. This is a Sewing Times pattern. I will link the pattern and her YouTube tutorial in the description of this video. And she's got all kinds of amazing free patterns. So highly recommend that you go and check that out as well. I really appreciate all of you being here and taking the time to spend time with me. And I hope you have a fabulous weekend and have a great evening, friends. I will put a link to some of my other videos up in the corner so you can enjoy those between now and my next upload. Bye, friends.